So were you one of those students that was always studying, or?
I was always studying.
Did you have any fun at varsity? No.
Honestly, I always need to check on those ovaries because ovarian cancer is a silent killer. Two sides of it. There's a public sector where definitely you'll be employed and then get a salary. You're just working and getting a salary.
And for our male counterparts, so what should we be saying to them about, you know, how to support their women, what's important for them in terms of how to support their own bodies?
Let me approach a company and see if they can get a formulation for me that would work anti-aging and then for dry skin.
Is the fact that this idea of I'm putting on the hat of Tlalane the entrepreneur and taking off the hat of a mom, or I'm putting off the hat of a mom and putting on the hat of a property entrepreneur. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of The Fanatic Mindset with me, Tlalane Ntuli, a podcast where I speak to trailblazing, self-starting South African men and women, although we've had more women to be honest, who are doing incredible things in their respective fields and who we can all learn from in terms of their own success. Today, my guest is Dr Karabo Tlale. Eventually I'll get used to calling her just Karabo, but for now, give me because that's what I call her out of respect. And Dr Karabo is a gynecologist. She's also a businesswoman, and she has introduced her own facial, should I say facial or should I say no, beauty brand,
skincare range.
And we're going to be talking to Dr Karabo about some really interesting things about business, starting a skincare range, and most importantly, ladies, can we talk about the gynecology stuff? So Dr Karabo, welcome so much to The Fanatic Mindset.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Okay, so Dr Karabo, I first want to start our conversation with where it began. So typically, and I say this all the time, I think I don't want to, I never like starting the conversation with you walked 20 miles to get to the house, and then, because I mean all South Africans have similar stories, but with you in particular, I'd like to go there because I am fascinated by a black female gynecologist. And I know people are going to say, yeah, but there are quite a few of them now, but I think when you first got into the field, there weren't as many as there are now, one. And then secondly, I, as a 46-year-old female, have never seen or gone to a black female gynecologist. So I want to know where it started. How did it start? Why did you become a gynecologist?
I must say, I keep telling everyone who wants to listen or who is interested my story that while I was young, I didn't even know there were careers. I didn't know I was going to be a doctor. I didn't know there was a university. I started in primary school, and then I was told I was going to high school, boarding school. I did go to boarding school, and then as I was finishing boarding school, I was told my mom was always the one paving the career and the path for me. So my mom then says, now you're going to apply to go to university. Like, oh, okay, you're going to do BSc. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I applied, I got admission. And as now I was completing my degree in BSc, she was already saying, you're going to be a doctor.
Oh my gosh.
And I followed suit. I filled in the forms. I applied to all the medical schools in South Africa. But it was so difficult to get admission. I had to start doing microbiology at Wits, and then by the following year, around about April, I only got admitted to medicine to do medicine.
Yeah. So maybe let me take a step back there, because this would have been in the early to mid 90s, ne?
Mid-90s.
This would have been in the mid-90s. So by now, I mean, apartheid is gone. Black South Africans, black students around the world are coming into universities, but there still aren't a hell of a lot of women that are going into medicine. What was that like?
During our time, I think there were a few of us, females, who went into medicine. And unfortunately for us, when we started at Medunsa, we were the older ones who had already had degrees. And
yes, because you had degrees,
and then there were the younger ones. So we were more like mature, the ones that we called mature people. But it was settling in was not a problem. I remember the first year we were credited most of the subjects, so we're doing like 2 subjects that year, and then into second year then it shaped up and we all got through. For me to decide to do obstetrics and gynecology, it was because initially I had thought I was going to be a pediatrician. I have the love for kids. I'm always like trying to play, and my mom always says she never thought I would be an obstetrician. She thought I was going to be a pediatrician. How kids will always flood my house. I always want to play, and so I would always be accommodating. But for me, what frustrated me with pediatrics is kids come, babies come, and they're crying. They can't tell you where it's painful. You have to figure out. Yet this child is crying and you want to make sure that they're comfortable. So I was getting frustrated, and obstetrics, they're babies. That was the next thing. And obviously also I did very well during my studies while I was doing my 5th and final year in obstetrics. I was excelling in that, and I decided I was going to do it.
So let's talk about the journey of becoming a doctor. And I mean, I know we've got lots of black doctors now, so it's not even about that. I'm still fascinated because I think I grew up in a world where being a doctor was the thing that every parent would want for their child, but it was also for those of us who were not mathematically or scientifically inclined, always just looked at it and thought, never, that would never happen to me. What was it like? I mean, is it to find yourself kind of, first of all, you said you didn't know about varsity, so your mom pushing you into it. How did that feel? Was it as fascinating for you to think I'm going to become a doctor as it is for us that are watching it?
It was fascinating. I guess my mom worked at the university, so she was more clued up. If it were myself, without her, I would have just, I don't know what else I would have done after doing matric, but it was quite easy. I must say, maybe comes with the fact that I'm a hard worker. So whatever and wherever I get directed, I just go discipline, and then it would be easy for me to just get to acclimatize, and then
So were you one of those students that was always studying, or?
I was always studying.
Did you have any fun at varsity? No.
On a Friday, I was at Vets. Friday afternoon, I would be studying.
Oh my goodness!
Studying. I had a good schedule. I would go to class afternoon. We go for lunch afternoon. I know what time I need to be studying until 7 o'clock, and then until 5 o'clock I go for supper. Then 7 o'clock I'm by my desk.
This is even on a Friday. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Oh, that's okay.
How I get you. Did it. But I guess also we had to catch up on a lot when you're doing microbiology, because unfortunately, I'll have to say whites are privileged. They have laptops, they have computers, they have everything. So you needed to make up so that you could get to that standard. And so what was funny is I got to this class, and I would love sitting on the other side. I didn't even see it. There was a side where it was whites only, and I would go and sit there. And the other black students would go like, why does he do that? But I was like in between them, black today, whites tomorrow, and I didn't
see the difference.
I didn't see the difference. But then, like I say, working hard, then it just makes your life easy. And even while doing medicine, you just need to be focused and then put the work in, and what you put in will come out.
Is what you and I think that's a principle that many people who have sat in that seat that I've interviewed seem to share. Is what you put in is what you get out. So let's go to still on the medical career, delve into obstetrician, I can never get that right, and gynecology, because a lot of us actually don't really even understand what it means. So maybe can you just tell us the difference between the two, and then we'll go specifically into gynecology, because that's the part that interests me.
So obstetrics is the study of pregnancy.
Okay.
And up to giving birth.
Okay.
Taking care of the mother who's pregnant from early pregnancy, as soon as she conceives, right up to the time she delivers, then into 6 weeks post-delivery, to make sure that baby and mommy are fine. Yes, that's what it is about. And then gynecology as your day-to-day, looking at the well-being and health of a woman.
A woman.
Yeah, easy things, whether you're normal, we do screening tests, and then when there are problems, we do get into the problem and then get to solve it. So day-to-day problems of women, and just making sure that, you know how we get our cars taken for service, just to make sure that you're servicing the woman is perfect from head to toe. That's what gynae is about.
I love that analogy. Can you become an obstetrician without becoming a gynae, and vice versa? No.
While we practice, most of the time we get to take both of them.
Okay.
But most of the time, then with age, we usually see older people stopping obstetrics. Obstetrics is very hectic.
Oh, okay.
You sleep at night, you get called out, it's numbers, you are running around. So most of the time, at some stage, most of the gynaes or obstetricians and gynaes, they leave and drop the obstetrics and then concentrate only on the easier one, which is gynae.
Yes, because by then you want to slow down your life.
You structure your practice, you decide on how many hours you want to do, and then you can focus on other things and just get to slow down.
That's such an... I mean, I've got 2 kids, so my introduction to the world of obstetrics and gynae was when I fell pregnant. I had never really done, those appointments that people say, check yourself, and that's just not. And I've got 4 older sisters, so you can imagine that if they weren't doing it, I wasn't likely to do it. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think there is a lot of misinformation about what being a gynecologist is, or why it's necessary for a woman to continuously see her gynecologist. Yeah.
So we do what we call screening tests. Remember, the main problem that we see cancer killing a lot of women. You have breast cancer, you have cervical cancer, you have ovarian cancer. Those are the most and the high killers of women in the world. So there are screening tests. That's why I call it as servicing, whereby you don't have a problem or there isn't anything major, but at least annually or at least every second year, depending on your lifestyle, depending on your family history. Breast cancer, for example, after the age of 40, you need to make sure that you're having your mammograms done to check for even the smallest bit of cancer in that.
And it doesn't matter whether you have a family of cancer or not.
History of breast cancer or not, it doesn't matter. And then cervical cancer, also a smoker would have to have the pap smears done every year, because the nicotine in cigarettes, even in vaping, it weakens the cells of the cervix.
Oh wow.
And that's in that way you get prone to getting that human papilloma virus, which most of the people don't know and are not aware that it's sexually transmitted. And also the problem is, one person would be telling you, I've been with my partner for 15 years, but we always say you don't know, unfortunately, what the partner is doing. And to protect yourself, just come and be checked. So there's the notion of that, to screen. We spoke about the ovary as well. After age 40, no patient comes into my rooms, even if it's for something that doesn't need an ultrasound. I say I always need to check on those ovaries, because ovarian cancer is a silent killer. By the time you find that there are problems, most of the time it's advanced stage for ovarian cancer, or even the metastasized one. So it's very important to keep an eye on those ovaries, especially after age 40.
Sure. Okay, so I love that you've introduced us to especially after age 40, because I think a lot of my tribe are probably getting there, or will eventually get there. I am obviously over age 40. Let's talk about menopause. Oh my God, I'm dying, guys. So I think for me, I always say, when Oprah went on menopause, every one of us went on menopause. If you and Oprah, because every second show was about menopause. But because it wasn't relevant to me at the time, I don't think I focused. What are the key things that we need to know as a starting point? As a woman, you start 40 and above. What are the key things we need to know about going into menopause?
So what we have around menopause is initially perimenopause, approaching menopause. And I must say, menopause is literally, what it means is your last period.
Oh.
That's menopause.
So it's not 5 months, 10 months,
menstruation pausing is menopause, so your last period. And there's a range of age from around age 48 to around age 51, 52, up to 53. That's a range when people reach menopause.
Okay.
And then we talk about premenopause because as the ovaries start to get to lose their function, then go into that period where the period will eventually stop, you start having symptoms. People talk about hot flashes, people talk about vaginal dryness, decreased libido, depressed mood. There's a lot that happens. But also one should be aware that because I don't know, I think it's when it comes on the internet, everybody then just comes and says, I'm experiencing
menopause, I'm in menopause. Yes.
People should be aware that also our lifestyle is so hectic that it's depleting the body of its essentials. We're running around as work, as family, as social life. There's a lot that is causing problems in our lives, so much that for you to be assessed and diagnosed as menopausal, we need to do blood tests to see and make sure that those ovaries are no longer functional, because otherwise day-to-day activities give you those symptoms, and that's why most of the time people would think that they are reaching or approaching menopause, and you find that it's just for them to start taking care of themselves, slow down, and then just make sure that everything is fine.
Okay, so I'm gonna be selfish here. May as well, because you're my guest. I know for a fact that my doctor confirmed Tlalane, you're in perimenopause. I think what was scary about that was I had never even heard, mind you, I've got 4 older sisters, I have never even heard of the word perimenopause. What does it mean? When does it come? What should people expect? When does it stop?
The perimenopause, like I said, is an approach. So we can't even detect or determine when your ovaries are going to start declining in function. But the minute you start getting those symptoms, it's the same. People start having anxiety, having depressed mood, having decreased libido, as in their desire for intimacy decreases, vaginal dryness, and then others get to have your hot flashes or even night sweats. So all those are the things that you start seeing happening. And then for most of the people as well, the menstrual flow gets to change. It can be either heavy, be frequent, and you're just confused, you don't know what is going happening on. Yes, and we know, look at the age, do the blood tests, and then we know that it's approaching and it's getting into menopause.
Yeah, I mean, some people have talk about hormone therapy, replacement. At what stage do you need to be even thinking about things like that?
So for you to think about hormone replacement therapy, which I think is the best thing one should do.
Really?
We do profiling, whereby if obviously you have a family history of breast cancer, there are things that you cannot do or use, things like your hormone therapy, whereby we use mostly estrogen. Depending on whether your uterus is still in or out, then it would be, if you still have your uterus, will be estrogen with progesterone to protect the uterus against endometrial cancer. And then if the uterus is out, it will be mainly your estrogen, and just to help and to make sure that everything is all normal. And then when we do that approach, profiling you, if you have for example, a history of breast cancer in the family, then you can't be getting the estrogen, because that would be the trigger. There's a sense and a notion of trigger with the estrogen. But then there are other formulations. We have your Levifem, Tlalane, which would be helping. Antidepressants also do help patients who cannot be on estrogen. So there are other therapies that can be used, but your hormone therapy gets to give you back what your ovaries are no longer producing. And then that's how we get to combat.
So essentially, first of all, not everybody can just get hormone therapy, as you've said.
Yes, there are people who would tolerate the symptoms. There are people who are scared, just scared of hormone therapy because they've heard of breast cancer and all that. But anyone, because those symptoms can be so bad that you are dysfunctional. You can't work You can, at home you're screaming, you're crying, you're doing everything. So we talk to you, we obviously to try and make you understand how and what is going to happen. And anyone, like I'm saying, anyone who needs the hormone therapy
should get hormone therapy.
Should get it.
Oh wow! It's not even like you should just get it.
I feel there are benefits, more benefits, especially if good profiling has been done. There are more benefits of getting that to become a happy mom, a happy wife. You're not giving problems. You're representing us well at home.
I'm coming to your office this coming week.
You should just come.
Because I'm completely dysfunctional, as you can see. My mind is foggy. I can't even drink water without spilling on myself. It is a mess. So my life is an utter mess.
Another thing that we all talk about, cognition. Your cognitive reaction gets to be depleted as the estrogen goes down. We talk about dementia. We talk about memory loss with all the symptoms. As the estrogen and testosterone go down, that's where then functionality gets to be affected. Your memory, function, cognition, they get affected, and that estrogen, the hormone replacement, gets to do the work.
Okay, so I think for me, when we were doing our prep conversation, we spoke about communication and the lack thereof. Like I was saying, I had never even heard of perimenopause. For me, that seems to be the missing piece. What conversations should be happening? Where should they be happening?
Unfortunately, there's no space. We ought to be advertising. We ought to be talking to the nation. I feel government is not helping us because there's so much that happens, for example, on TVs, but you never even see anything that's dedicated, say, from the government sector, where it says women go do your pap smears, women be aware of menopause. Most of the people, it will be when ladies are sitting together, and unfortunately most of the time people are even scared to say what they're going through because it seems to be more of taboo. So us as gynecologists, we've just taken it upon ourselves. I see anyone who's age above 40, 45, then it's my prerogative to ask them, how is it going? How is your libido? And sometimes they start off like, and all I do is talk vagina and talk.
It's every day anyway, so you may as well be comfortable.
And I must say, I'll tell you, in my practice as well, I see ladies alone because that's when they get to open up. They're always accompanied by partners, but they get there, they come out, and they haven't said that they have problems. We can't sit and talk, and I say, how's the libido? And she says, it's not happening. And I say, I'll fix you. I'll help you because now somebody is there. But when I see them alone, we talk, and they're like, I didn't know that you could help me with this. I'm like, we are here for you.
In the family structure, right? Like I was saying, 3 older sisters, nobody ever said, hey girl, by the way, there's this thing coming, ne? My mom, and I asked them, and they're all just like, we don't know what you're talking about. So what should be happening in the family structure, do you think?
I think in the family structure we should start being open about talking to the girls, talking to sisters, talking to cousins. Other than the family structure, I feel there should be road shows. I mean, from the health department, if there can be those road shows, that would help. And then going back to family structures, it's so funny because personally, I can't do that talking with even my daughter. Really? I don't know how to do it. But I ask everybody else, I say, bring her, I'll talk. So there's still that when you don't know where to touch. You try and be brave and speak to your daughter, and she goes like,
Mom, please, what are you on about?
What are you talking about? But really, we should be discussing and talking. And when we're sitting, anywhere women are sitting, they should be discussing this. And like I say, anyone who knows the next woman should be addressing and asking them point last. If you're going for your pap smear, ask your colleagues in the office, guys, have you done your pap smears? I'm going, you should be coming. And then also there's this notion that we need to be erasing, whereby people think that going to a gynecologist is because you have problems with the cookie.
Yes.
That's not the case. So anytime you take your bag and you say, I'm going to see the gynecologist, then the eyes going like, it means there's something wrong.
Yes.
No, that body needs to be serviced. And I said from head to toe, acne as well can be a problem coming from hormonal imbalance. So everything has to be checked to make sure that a woman is proper.
Guys, get checked. That is the message, get checked. And for our male counterparts, so what should we be saying to them about, you know, how to support their women? What's important for them in terms of how to support their own bodies?
With guys or gentlemen or men, I usually say when we talk about it, I've had to give a talk at my son's school where I said I'm not only going to talk to the girls, I need the boys as well. I need the boys to know that when it's that time for their little sister or older sister, whereby they're having their period pains, they're miserable, there's what we call endometriosis as well, that just makes somebody so miserable, vomiting when they're having their periods, then I need the boy to know that you should be taking care of this lady. The husband should be taking care. Are you fine? Can I bring you some tea? Can I bring you some water? Let them lay. If they're resting the pain, let them rest the pain and get to know that there's no problem. I mean, in our days, in high school, there would be that where if any accident happens, the boys will be giggling. And not just saying, come friends, there's a problem, go to the bathroom. They would be giggling and they're like, hey,
pointing at you.
Here something has happened. And that should just be going on to say, let's take care of one another. Males should be taking care of women and females. And then in that way, life just gets to be better.
And for their own issues, where do men go? They don't come to gynaes, obviously.
No, they don't come to gynaes. So men usually see the urologist.
Okay.
And then the urologist usually would discuss issues around, I mean, when, for example, a couple comes and they are having difficulties having a baby, conceiving, I see the woman, I do the workup, and I always say to the partner, if we pass everything, all the tests, because most of the time it's said that the woman is the one who has a problem, I always alert the guys to know that as well you're going to have to see your urologist for them to check. Because, for example, problems can be with the sperm, or the sperm count is low, where the sperm is not good quality, there are problems, the infections with the guys. So both parties need to be checked most of the time. Erectile dysfunction is another problem.
Big thing.
Like we say, life now is so hectic that even social work problems affect your body and you're just not functioning well. So see somebody, see a urologist, the lady will see a gynecologist, and you both get sorted.
You see, I didn't even know what urologist, I've heard the term, but I don't know what they do. Okay, so one of the things for me around menopause, and I just want to, you know, kind of evolve the conversation a little bit beyond menopause, is when we were chatting, you said, you know, there is such a big, we're seeing such a big problem with dementia. And what people don't know is the things you should be starting now at 40 that could prevent dementia at 80 or even at 70 or even at 60.
Even late 60s, dementia, that memory loss and cognition, cognitive function going down, loss of balance, inability to do certain tasks in the day. We ought to be taking ourselves, care of ourselves. I mean, from age 40, we recommend, I'm a believer in vitamin B complex. In your omegas, vitamin D, and your calcium. Remember, as you age, especially as you get into menopause, when that estrogen goes down, it affects the bone structure. A mom who will always be falling, getting fractures, and also getting bone pains, you need to be doing that. Socializing, reading is very important, especially when it comes to the brain cells. It stimulates your brain cells. So just reading a novel, reading a newspaper, reading is very important. Your life, if it's not sedentary and it's not isolated, you need to be socializing, going to the shop, seeing people. You can't be sitting in one place, because then your activation of the brain cells goes down. So there has to be that stimulation, your lifestyle, what you eat, your diet, get your fish, your egg.
Yeah.
Also, they give you your omegas from that if you don't want to be ingesting tablets.
Yeah.
Your potatoes give you lots of calcium. There's potassium as well. So your vegetables, your fruits would give you most of the things if you don't want to be ingesting tablets. And then lifestyle exercise is very important.
It's critical.
It's very, very important.
All the things I need to hear, but I know I probably will not start tomorrow, so I'm definitely going to come and see you. That is a promise. But so now let's talk about Karabo Tlale, the businesswoman. I think a lot of the time people don't understand that when you're a doctor, particularly when you're a specialist, you are not employed a lot of the time. What does that, can you explain to us what that means? Because people think, oh, you're a doctor, you're so lucky you have a job. It doesn't quite work like that a lot of the time.
A lot of the time it doesn't work like that. So until a few years ago, 2 years ago, I had never seen a doctor without a job, which was what I was always saying. We're so lucky we never go without a job. But unfortunately, you know what happened in South Africa. There were medical officers who didn't have jobs, and it's not because there are no jobs. It's just because of mismanagement of funds and all that, which can be kept for another day. But now when you want, because there are two sides of it. There's a public sector where definitely you'll be employed and then get a salary. You're just working and getting a salary. And then if you want before you go there, so if you're a doctor in the public sector, could you be working for different hospitals, or do you typically get employed by a single hospital? Most of the time it's by a single hospital where you're focusing, then you're doing calls over time and focusing there. Unless if it's a complex that has, like we used to rotate between Johannesburg Hospital, Bara, Gwanath and Coronation.
Oh,
then you can
like it's a network.
Yes. And then so I was saying, once you want to go into private practice, that's when you become a business person now. Because whatever happens in your practice, there are taxes to be paid, there are employees you have to pay, you have an accountant you have to deal with and pay. There's a lot that also gets to happen. So during our training, it's unfortunate. I mean, from a simple thing as computer literacy, we don't get offered that. And then accounting studies, you don't know management accounts, you don't know, nothing that you know about that. So you have to, I've personally had to do short courses in management courses and just to make sure that I understand how the practice goes and how it grows.
So, because I was going to ask you that, because so many doctors have private practices, does that mean that you guys get business studies on top of the medical studies?
If you want to do other things, because remember also there's this thing that I always ask everyone, until when are we going to be doctors? Until when are we going to be practicing? We don't even get to be enlightened and to say start other things earlier. The main thing that happens, I think, with most of us is being overinsured, because that money gets into insurances, and then other sources of income. I think we need to have that done during training at some stage. I introduce those accounting studies for somebody to know their business opportunities, the things that you need to do, and also for source, like I say, of extra income, other than what your mainstream is. That is very important,
particularly in this economy, because I mean, even those of us who are employed in corporate, we're now doing side gigs, right? Everybody, I mean, the gig economy, everybody's talking about what are you doing on top of, so I mean, I imagine that people in the medical field, it's difficult to think outside of the box of what you're doing. So then when you're running your own practice, as you were saying, now you are running your own practice, right? There is equipment to be bought. All of that sits on you.
It sits on you.
So you have to be a businesswoman.
You have to be a businesswoman, because there can be funding that gets to be done, but it's always so problematic, and you always have to produce this and that. But if you are working and you are saving and you have funds on the side, then you are able to fund whatever equipment you need, your sonar machine, your colposcopy machine. There's a lot of other things that you need to be buying on the side for you to run your practice.
And then you, on top of being a businesswoman running your own practice, you've now also started Sensual.
Sensual You,
Let's talk
yes.
about Sensual You, because this, I mean, for me, when I when I first heard about you, it was through Sensual You. So I obviously thought you were a dermatologist, because dermatologists are people who talk or who work with skin. How do you go from being a gynae to doing, you know,
The
skincare range? Yeah.
So with me, it's because my skin is very dry.
Okay.
And in the olden days, I would do, I'm not sure if you remember what we used to call LDA.
Yes.
As the body cream.
I remember that.
When you come to school, you would have to have stocked up on 4 or 6 jars of that, because otherwise the skin literally cracks and then itches a lot, and it's very irritating. And then there was a time where I could only use Epimax for my skin not to crack. And then just one day, not even out of business or anything, just out of interest, and I thought, let me approach a company and see if they can get a formulation for me that would work anti-aging and then for dry skin. And I approached these guys. The first company I think went under, and then I stopped with them and I moved to another company to just say, what is it that you can help me to get a formulation that will be anti-aging and also for dry skin. And we came up with the formulation, but the problem now was they couldn't only make or produce only for me, and because they have to do it in large quantities. And all I said, it's fine, I can do all those large quantities, and then I'll share with anyone, whoever is interested and whoever is having the same problem as me. And that's how it got to be a business for me.
Wow. And so now Essential You has been operating for how long?
We started in 2020. We're celebrating 5 years now in May, and I'm still doing. So with the way our job is busy, how busy we are, I can't even venture and make it a big thing. That's why I'm still online. I'm still on people around me, just to serve and to share with whoever is around me. But until such time that I can be able, at some stage, able to focus on it and to make it grow.
I think for you, what you've really mastered, which is maybe something we can talk about, is the advocacy. You have return customers, because I'm a return customer. You have people that become so loyal to your brand.
Yes.
What is it that you are getting right? Because for me, I think a lot of the time, getting new customers is difficult. Retaining customers is actually what business people, entrepreneurs should focus on, because those people then tell other people, then they tell other people, and it becomes
I guess in as much as, like I say, I'm just doing it, maybe it's like from the boots of my car, but I try, and when somebody has placed an order, I even, you know how I always even send or deliver via Uber, make sure that somebody gets their delivery. And also just, I know marketing, I'm not even doing so well with marketing. I try, and you know, the focus is just not as much as it's supposed to be, but I'm really grateful of all the people who are there, and I feel also it's because they know the quality of the products, and they appreciate what is happening, and they keep coming back.
You do markets as well. I think I've seen you at 1 or 2 markets where you're selling the product.
Yes.
How has the fact that you are a doctor already, having a skincare range, given you, do you think, an advantage?
I think for me, with the skincare range. Remember, I also have it in my practice. I sell also from my practice, and I have patients who get to have. I have a tissue oil, and there are patients who are always sensitive and very concerned about the skin, especially after delivery. So that's how you also introduce it to them, and that gets to just grow. And
so for me, it's almost like, if I were an entrepreneur listening to this conversation, what would be a big lesson is the idea of not, being innovative or creative around how you solve for your clients, right? Like for you being a gynecologist, then you have the skincare range for the very people that are coming to.
Yes, then it just intertwines and it gets to sell from there.
And I think that's something that people struggle with.
Yeah.
Is how do you think beyond your environment, tapping into, as I always say on the podcast, the thing you're most fanatical about, to expand it to become a business. So do you see these two distinctly as two different businesses, the gynecology practice and Sensual You? I know you said you operate sometimes from the same office, but
no,
in your mind,
they're not different, because I guess it's more of a medical care.
Yeah,
for both of them, because your dry skin is a medical condition. Yeah, so they are together.
For someone who would say, hey, it's easy for her, she's already got money. She's already a gynecologist, so of course she can branch into other things. What would you kind of say to somebody who's asking themselves that, watching the show?
I would say, I think everybody has to try and do everything and anything they want to try and do. I mean, if you have the opportunity, if you have the funding, if you have that, you're lucky to can venture into something, always take advantage of it and do whatever it is that you can do. You shouldn't restrict yourself. You shouldn't say, I'm only focused on this. Everybody, I think I've heard from a lot of other business people who go in, like, you can never put your eggs in one basket. Do vast things, so that if one gets to fail in one way, then you have another carrying you through.
This is a question I had even when we were preparing ourselves, and I thought I'm going to keep this one for the podcast. You're a mother. You are a doctor. You are a daughter. You are how are you balancing all of that? I ask this question a lot of times.
I get asked that question as well a lot of times. One, I think like I said from the beginning, I'm a hard worker, and two, I don't like failing. So how I handle my life is I try and incorporate everything at the same time. If I'm talking to you, we are chatting now over a glass of water or having some tea. If I remember anything at that time, I take my phone and I send that email. If I remember something about, my accountant will say, I wake up at 3 a.m. I always get this sleep break at around 3 a.m. and my accountant will get an email from me.
Wow.
The teachers at school will get an email from me. On Friday, if there's anything about school and I'm only remembering it on Saturday, I send an email and I say, I apologize, please read it on Monday. So I try and do, for example, with my kids as well, the only reason they have phones is because when I get a message from school, I take a snapshot, I pass it, so that I'm not the only person who remembers about CV's day or whatever is happening. So that's the only way I get to communicate and make sure that things are done properly.
I love that, because I think there's a misconception that when you're doing, or when you are trying to build something from scratch, or you're trying to scale a business, try and close off everything else. But what you're saying is there's no problem with integrating life.
There's no problem at all. Like, for example, I've ventured into property as well. So you can imagine, in the middle of the night when I wake up at that time, I need, and also I think making sure that people around you, your assistants are people that you can get to speak to anytime. Anytime I need the lady who does invoicing for property, I can send her stuff anytime. And then sometimes I forget and she'll remind me, you haven't sent me statements, water and whatever.
Wow.
And then I need to be doing that. So there's a lot that is happening.
Sure.
But at the same time, I guess, like I said, I would always be reserved doing work. I prefer to do that. What I find myself doing exclusively more is around the kids. And to think that I never wanted to have kids.
Really?
I am so immersed in
being a mom.
Yes, doing everything for these kids.
Yes,
it's amazing.
I think for me, if I was to say what my big takeout from this conversation is, which I've actually never thought about, is the fact that this idea of I'm putting on the hat of Tlalane the entrepreneur and taking off the hat of a mom, or I'm putting off the hat of a mom and putting on the hat of a property entrepreneur doesn't exist. You can be wearing the hat
I
at
wear
the
them
same
all
time.
at the same time.
Yeah,
I wear them all at the same time, and that's why most of the time, unfortunately, anything that causes destabilizes me, I pack aside.
Oh wow.
Social, I pack aside and I try and concentrate on other things.
Sure.
So,
And you actually, that's why, I mean, you spoke a little bit earlier about your son, he broke his leg, and you were feeling like, oh my God, this is a lot. That's probably why, because it's like something that doesn't quite fit.
and people couldn't understand. I was traumatized. It was like it was the end of the world, and I speak, and that's how I find solace in getting facts out. Getting to be calmer, because then I'm out there, I'm going like, yo, my child has broken, and people were like, but I'm sure most of people were like, people are breaking legs, what's the problem? It's because that was a setback. I had to stop my hours at work. I would only start at 10 and then finish at 1 o'clock, because I had to make sure in the morning, like he went back to school 3 weeks later.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I had to be dropping off and then collecting him. So I had to park the financial, the practice thing. I said, if I don't make enough money, it's fine. I'm going to concentrate on this.
Wow.
I'll come back and literally sit in front of his bed going like, do you want water? Do you want shoes? Do you want? And then there were lots of comfort foods, and basically that's what had to happen. And every time there's anything that is hectic, maybe I find solace in sharing with the world and with people around
you.
Guys, I'm not coping. There's so much that is. No, it was bad. It was so bad.
And I mean, I want to close the conversation off by saying I love how, and maybe it's because you see a lot of women, but you're saying it's okay to switch something off when something else has gone up.
Exactly.
Because you're wearing all of these hats at the same time, but at some point one hat demands or requires more of you. It's okay to switch and dial down the one hat, so that you can focus on the other.
And you know, the other hat that is always troublesome.
Oh my
God. On the things that bring me peace. Anything that just doesn't bring peace, I put aside, and then I focus on the things that bring
you peace. And I suppose as a gynecologist, seeing a lot of women, and a lot of your job is not to be a psychologist, but I assume that
I'm a psychologist.
That's what you end up doing. Yes,
I'm a psychologist in my practice. Sometimes there'll be a lady, I spend like up to an hour. I come out for the next patient, everybody is all upset, and I'm like, guys, we don't have the same problems, please understand. It could be yourself. I do a lot of therapy in my practice, a lot of therapy, and that's why I really enjoy seeing my patients alone,
not with I could go on forever. Thank you so much for joining me for this really educational conversation. Thank you for giving of your time, because of course, as you said, you're wearing so many other hats, but you've made yourself available for this conversation. We are honored to have had you here. And yeah, thank you for being a great example and inspiration.
Thank you for having me.
You are.
You know, the day I saw when you had Tlalane on.
Yes.
And I've seen other people, and I asked myself, I wonder if I'll ever be on this podcast. It's a joy. It's very fulfilling. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Guys, that was my conversation with Karabo. She's a gynecologist. She's a businesswoman. She's into property. She started a skincare range. What an inspirational woman. These are the kind of women that I know I need in my corner. Thank you for joining me for another episode. Remember to subscribe, comment, and like.